Today's episode of the Property Investor Show, I'm going to go over the 3 different types of single-family home rental properties you could purchase. So whether you are a seasoned investor with a portfolio of properties or a first-time investor looking to finally get one under your belt and start collecting that monthly income, it's a great position to be in. Rental properties are fantastic for long-term investment strategy, for your retirement funds, for building equity over the course of time, and a slew of different reasons, including tax deductions and all that good stuff. So when you're searching for single-family home rental properties, actually this is applicable to multifamilies and all that as well. If you're looking for multifamilies, you should also pay attention. So now let's go over the 3 different types of single-family homes that you generally see in the open market. Number 1 is turnkey rental properties with a tenant already in place. So turnkey rental properties are ones with tenants already in place. So one of the big benefits of it is you have immediate cash flow, you have immediate rental income coming in every single month, and you get the benefit of really being able to see the historical track record of their rent. Because if you are purchasing a rental property with tenants in place, sometimes you can ask for the rent roll, so you will be able to see the fact that the tenant has been paying. Just because there is a tenant in place doesn't necessarily mean they're actually paying rent. So when you get to see the rent roll, you have the confidence of knowing that you have a good tenant in place, that the monthly income is going to be there when you expect it, and the reality of it is you know how long they've been there and hopefully they want to stay for a longer amount of time. So if you're an investor, obviously the immediate income is a huge selling factor. It's a great benefit. Having the confidence of knowing that the tenant is well qualified and they're in place and they continue to want to stay in the property for a long amount of time, that's a great feeling to have as an investor. So one of the cons about buying a turnkey rental property like this is the fact that the tenant could very well be paying less than market rent. So let's say, for example, the house could rent right now with a brand new tenant in place for $1,200 and the tenant is only paying maybe $900 because they've been in there for quite a few years, then that's obviously a significant difference of what's achievable for the property itself. However, the amount of time that it would take of necessarily canceling one tenant's lease and then finding a new tenant, that's not going to make up for the difference of what the market rent is versus what you're actually receiving. So even if the tenant is paying a little bit below market, that's not necessarily a horrible thing. If they've been good and they've been paying on time, they don't complain a lot, and the property management company or the current owner can show you the fact that, you know, they're not calling every single week complaining when a light bulb goes out or the ice is not freezing fast enough in the refrigerator or freezer or something like that, then they're a good tenant. There's no reason to disrupt them. Another con when it comes to the turnkey rental properties is the fact that the investor is most likely going to want a good price for the home. So when the investor wants obviously a better price for the home, you're going to be paying a little bit closer to retail, and so the amount of equity that you're going to receive immediately might not be as high as you want. However, over the course of time, that's eventually going to build into the property, and if you're getting the 4 to 5% capital appreciation on average like we're seeing here in Central Florida, then in 5 to 10 years it's not even going to make a difference. And finally, one of the other things to take into consideration when it comes to the turnkey rental properties is the deferred maintenance. And by deferred maintenance, I mean things that could be wrong with the house that necessarily the landlord hasn't quite done yet or hasn't really been paying too much attention to, because the roof could be a lot older than it should be, or the AC might be a little bit older, and there have been a couple of things here and there that have been kind of causing issues, which could be why the owner wants to sell the property. So route number 2 to purchasing a rental property is just buying it retail on the MLS. One of the big benefits of buying it like this is the fact that you actually have a good amount of inventory to choose from. So if you go in the open market, whether you look on realtor.com or you're dealing with a real estate agent and they just show you a bunch of listings on the MLS, obviously anybody can purchase a property like that. You're gonna have a slew of different inventory to pick from. However, you're not necessarily gonna be buying something with amount of equity that you're gonna be looking for, and at the end of the day, you are gonna pay top dollar for it. One of the benefits when it comes to buying a property with the MLS status or open market status, if you will, is you usually don't have to do too much work if it has an owner occupant in place. Hopefully they've been taking care of it, and so you might just have to do a quick cosmetic rehab to it. Another benefit when it comes to the MLS deals is the fact that you have a due diligence period. The contingency period really helps an investor feel at ease. You know, you can go through the process of the inspections and all that good stuff, but that's also why you're paying a premium retail price for it. And finally, one of the other benefits when it comes to the MLS deals is the fact that you can finance them. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a deal with an amount of equity that, you know, you're going into between 10 to 15% below market value, that's not necessarily going to be where you find it. So some of the cons when it comes to buying a retail property on the MLS like this is you do have to go through the process of getting a tenant ready, whether that is an amount of rehab that just includes paint and carpet, a couple of fixtures here and there. Sometimes the rehab is a little bit bigger, and then you do have to do other things such as change the appliances, update the roof or the AC or the water heater and things of that nature. So there is a lag time between purchase and actual cash flow. And then finally, after the house is rehabbed and the house is tenant ready, you then have to find the tenant. You have to go through the qualification process. You have to obviously advertise it and do all that type of good stuff. And so, that's another thing to take into consideration with the vacancy rate, or however you want to calculate your actual ROI. And finally, the third way to buy a rental property is wholesale. Wholesale properties give you an amazing opportunity to buy a home below market value, gives you an opportunity to really see the property in its bare bones state, if you will. You walk into the house knowing that it's going to need a lot of rehab, knowing that you're buying it for hopefully, let's say 60 to 70 cents on the dollar. And it does give you an opportunity to really purchase a property with a good amount of equity and really command the amount of rent that you'll receive from it. So one of the great benefits to wholesale properties outside of just the equity is the fact that you get to really control the rehab. If the home needs a roof, if it needs an AC, you could put in new appliances, fixtures, type of flooring you want and all that good stuff. That could be much more applicable to tenants. What we usually do with flooring is we don't put carpet in place. We like to put either thick laminate or some type of hardwood flooring or tile, because then you don't have to worry about replacing it every so many years, because carpet gets gross really quick. It's things like that. So the exact condition that you're giving it to the tenant in. So if you just put appliances, a water heater, a new AC, new ceiling fans, freshly painted and all that good stuff, and the tenant walks into the home with that type of updates and features to it, they're going to hopefully treat the property with more respect, but at the same time, that you handed the property over to them in that condition. So when they leave, you know what to expect. And a great thing about having a property like that is recently renovated is the fact that you can get a premium for rent. And obviously when it comes to wholesale property, some of the cons are there is a lack in cash flow because you will have to renovate it. That needs to be factored into consideration when it comes to your actual ROI. The short-term delay in rent is certainly going to be made up for by the long-term amount of equity and cash flow you're going to receive from a premium rental amount. Another con is obviously the rehab will be needed. Some people will look at that as a deterrent, but rehab is not that big of a deal if you have all of your ducks in a row and you made the proper contacts and you put the right pieces of the puzzle in place prior to purchasing it. And finally, one of the other cons when it comes to wholesale properties such as this is there is no contingency periods. So the contingency period does give you the opportunity to do the inspections, to go the financing route if you need it and all that type of stuff. But when it comes to wholesale properties, there is none of that. It's a cash purchase, or you could use hard money, which is basically the same thing. But there are no inspection periods, there are no due diligence periods when it comes to that type of nature. However, that's what you get with a wholesale deal. So renovations shouldn't be too much of a surprise when it comes to a wholesale house. When you're buying a property like that, you don't necessarily need an inspection period to tell you, hey, the appliances don't work well, because that's very easy to find out. It's things like that where you purchase it with the expectations that you are going to update everything. So the three ways to purchase a rental property is obviously turnkey, retail off the MLS, or wholesale. Those are the three easy ways to purchase a property. It really depends on what you're looking for. Each one of them will be great in the long run. It's all just a matter of what fits best for your criteria. So this is Chris Grenier. Thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe, like, share, do all that good stuff, and I'll be talking to you soon.